All right, guys, welcome in to the Set It Off Network. It is week 6. We had a jam-packed show in week 5. If you missed our recap of week 5, man, you've got to go check that out. But today is all about week 6, Will. And, there's a lot of teams on bye weeks this week, including ours. All right, so we got to do a lot of research this week because we're not previewing any of our team stuff. We're going to be talking about some of the bigger games in week 6, and don't let the light slate fool you. We saw this earlier this year. All right, these light slates sneak up on you. All right, just when you think, hey, I can go to a wedding. Hey, baby, we can go to dinner tonight. We can go do the farmers market, and then boom, you miss the upset of the year. Right. This is when these things happen. So we're going to be talking about a couple games, 4 in particular. And Will, I want to talk about the game that was the game of games last year, right? I mean, this was the game that shocked college football, turned it upside down last year, given the 2007 vibes for sure. All right, after last year's 40-35 win in Nashville, your Vanderbilt Commodores are taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide this weekend in Tuscaloosa. A lot different tasks than playing in Vanderbilt. You've been in Bryant Denny before for big games, man. That place gets rocking. So Bama's favored, -9.5. What's your thoughts on Vanderbilt traveling to Tuscaloosa this weekend?
Well, that's going to be a big, big test for Vanderbilt. They've played in hostile environments though before this season. They went into Virginia Tech at night. They went into South Carolina at night and just demolished both of those teams. Alabama, though, it is kind of another level up there, and the Alabama fans are feeling all charged up again after that big, impressive win over Georgia last week. But you know what? I seem to remember things kind of going like this last year, too. Here's Alabama. They have a huge win over Georgia. Everyone's saying, Bama's for real. Bama's for real. Kalen DeBoer's got this together. And then what do the next week? They go lose to Vanderbilt. No one saw it coming, really. But this year, Vandy probably not going to catch Alabama off guard like they did last year. Vandy's a ranked team. We know Kalen DeBoer and his record against ranked teams. It's very, very good. So your head kind of tells you Alabama is going to get up for this game. But that being said, I still like Vanderbilt in this spot. I feel like Vanderbilt's a really good team, a lot better than the AP poll would say they are. Diego Pavia, after watching him in person, what he did to my Gamecocks, who I still believe are a good team. I like Vanderbilt actually to win this game. And, Alabama, it might be a hangover effect a little bit after that win against Georgia. So I just like Vanderbilt. What can I say?
To win?
Yeah,
To win?
Vandy's going to win.
Clip it. All right. So Vanderbilt's probably not winning this football game. All right. And I hate to do this because I hate Alabama. All right. You know this. I can't stand Alabama. There's not a program I hate more than the University of Alabama. All right. But that being said, the worst thing that ever happened to Vanderbilt as far as this game's concerned is Alabama losing that first football game because they lost to FSU and something clicked. And I know you could say it and they just own Georgia. That's kind of how it is. And, this is a new week. But Alabama at home is a different team. But I'm telling you, Will, it's Ty Simpson. From what I saw from the Georgia game, Ty Simpson was off the charts, man. And I don't expect this Alabama team to move at the efficiency. I mean, they were 13 for 19 on third downs. That's impossible to replicate. But this team missed out on tons of opportunities. They could have won this game by double digits. And they didn't run the ball a lick against Georgia. It was all Ty Simpson. And if Ty Simpson is playing at this level, it is going to be so hard to beat Alabama because we know what they are on defense. When they lock it in, man, they are one of the best defensive teams in the country. And I just think, obviously, Kalen DeBoer is going to have his team ready to play this football game. We've talked about it. We talked about it last week. When it comes to big games and ranked opponents, Kalen DeBoer doesn't lose. All right? And I'm not picking him to lose this week. I'm picking Bama, and I'm picking Bama to cover because I think Vanderbilt's just catching Alabama at a terrible time in the year where they're still reminded every single day that they lost to FSU, right? And yes, they did have that huge win against Georgia, and that lightened the load for Kalen DeBoer a little bit. But if you don't think that after what happened last year and the embarrassment that this fan base felt last year, that place isn't going to be charged up and ready to do unspeakable things to Vanderbilt on Saturday night, you got it wrong, man. This game, luckily for Vanderbilt, I guess it's at 3:30, but I'm taking Bama, and I'm taking Bama to cover. I think it's going to be bad. I honestly think this game could be in the 3 touchdown range. Like it. I think it's going to be rough. I think Vanderbilt's going to get treated. Well, I don't know if this is true, but this got to be the smallest line in the history of this series, right? I mean, to get to 9.5, I mean, it's back up to like 10.5 now, I think, but it's got to be close to, I mean, maybe back in the day when they literally scored 10 points a game, like, but I mean, in the modern era, I mean, since 2000, you can't tell me that Vanderbilt and Alabama played each other with a double digit line, not a double digit line
I don't.
because
Yeah, I don't think since Nick Saban got there, I
yeah,
doubt it.
there's no shot. All right, but
I'm looking
that
at the history of this though, man. They
it's bad.
Alabama's had some bad ones under Nick Saban, like some
Yeah,
big time blowouts.
it's bad. They didn't care who you were, Will. All right, they didn't care. They didn't care what jerseys you were wearing. They were going out there and dominating you. All
You
right,
remember that
but
video from 2017 where the one Vandy player was like, "Alabama, you're gonna know what ball we play. You're
and they
next," and
did,
then Jalen Hurts was like, "Well, yeah, technically they are next on the schedule."
and they
So
were next. They were next on
yeah.
the hit list because they got smashed like a bug on the windshield that game. I think that was like prime time CBS or CBS 3:30 game back in God, that was a terrible experience for Vanderbilt people,
And the
but
final score 59-0.
yeah, exactly. Bug meets windshield. It was bad. All right. So the next game we're going to talk about a huge rivalry. Maybe not for us, Will, but there's a lot of people that may be a little bit older than us that really remember this thing being probably the best rivalry in college football, I dare to say, in the 80s and 90s. And that is Miami taking their talents on the road to take on FSU. Now, the hype on FSU is a little bit down, all right, after what happened to Virginia. Somebody on this show predicted it, somebody knew it was going to happen, all right, but it did happen. And for Florida State, it really sucks that it happened because they kind of lose a little bit of lackluster, but do they have that Bama vibe now, right? Where they've tasted their own blood, all right? And you have what I think in the set it off rankings is the number one team in the country coming to town. And this is
Mhm.
the first time in a long time that this Miami FSU rivalry really feels real. Like these two teams are really competing now for the ACC championship, so this is a huge game on Saturday. Well, this is our Saturday night ABC game right now. Miami sits as a 4.5 point favorite. What are you thinking about Miami and Florida State on Saturday night?
Well, I think Miami's catching Florida State at a bad time, honestly, because Florida State, with that loss last week and the way they lost, they're gonna get up. Kind of like how Alabama losing to Florida State was a good thing for them. I feel like it could have that same effect for Florida State. They're gonna try to correct the things that they had wrong, and then Miami's coming in to Doak Campbell Stadium, night game, big time game, biggest game in this rivalry in a while. I was looking it up just now. First time we've had a ranked on ranked matchup since 2016, and first time I think you've had the two teams ranked this high since 2013 at least. So,
Mm-hmm.
you
Been a
know,
while.
big time stuff for this rivalry and for these fan bases. And like Florida State knows, like this season, this thing ain't over yet. And as they go and knock off Miami, all their goals are still in front of them. They can still win the ACC. They still control their path to the playoff. So, I mean, I just like Florida State in this spot for all those reasons.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot, and I'm on the Miami side of this thing, and I'm really just feeling like Miami is that well-oiled machine right now. I honestly think this is gonna sound terrible because I think the Alabama thing with Florida State was more of Alabama's doing than Florida State's doing, if that makes sense. Florida State, while their scores have been great, I think the Virginia game really exposed a lot of things with them. Now, the padlock stat of this game, will all right, is going to come down to these stats right here. All right, right now FSU is the number 2 team in the nation in rushing. All right, they rush for almost over 300 yards a game, which is a ton. If LSU could just get like a quarter of that, like they'd be an elite football team. So 300 yards on the ground every game is kind of crazy. All right, but Miami has the number 8 rushing defense. They have some great defensive linemen. So this is a battle of strength versus strength here, and if Florida State's able to run the football and keep the ball away from Miami, that is their way to success. But I just don't think this Florida State defense is that good. I'm not gonna lie to you. I just don't feel like this FSU defense is up to the standard that they're going to be able to keep Miami from scoring 28 to 30 something points. Like, I think Miami's going to go in there. That place is going to be rocking. But I really love Mario Cristobal. I think he has that mentality that a lot of coaches don't have, and that is, we don't care where we play, just spot the ball and let's play. And I think that Miami team has a lot to prove from what they did last year, and they're tired of hearing the jokes about how they can't win these types of games. They won the Notre Dame game, they won the USCF game or USF game pretty handily. So they're trying to create a new narrative for themselves, and I think they get it done. I think they go on the road to FSU, and I think they win, and I think they cover.
Yeah, Miami, they are an impressive team. They've been very impressive. They flat out dominated people in their last few games, dominating Florida, dominating South Florida, who, they have some impressive wins of their own. So, yeah, Miami's a good team, but I just say, college football, wild things happen. And when you get Miami going into an environment like this and the position Florida State's in, I just think wild things could happen in this game.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned wild things in college football because one of the wildest things I did this week, Will, while I was picking games that we were going to preview, was look at the slate and say, I think we're going to preview Mississippi State and Texas A&M. And maybe if
Good
you
one.
asked me about 6 weeks ago, saying why would you preview that game? A&M's obviously going to win that game. Um, well, the season happened, and the kids played the games, and things happened. And Mississippi State is a really good football team. I think we've established that. They've beat the Big 12 champs from last year in Arizona State. All right, honestly, played super well against Tennessee. If not for 2 defensive touchdowns from Tennessee, they probably win that game and win that game handily. That game went into overtime. So this Mississippi State team is a team to watch. They are a big play machine, man. They hammered the explosive plays. I mean, I think they have the most 20+ yard plays in the SEC right now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But Jeff Levy, Lane Kiffin disciple, got that offense humming. Blake Shapen, if he can not turn the football over, can do wonderful things. Now this line is high. This line sits at A&M minus 14.5, and I gotta say, Will, it's already on my bet sheet. I got it before everybody betted it down. And at 14.5, I'm taking Mississippi State all day. Give me 2 touchdowns in Mississippi State covering that thing. I know it's in College Station, and I know it's a tough environment, and it's the first time really Mississippi State's went on the road. But man, this game feels like it could go down as a nail biter. These are the types of games A&M usually doesn't play well in, right? We saw what they did against Auburn at home. I mean, it's not out of the realm of a possibility that Mississippi State just goes in there and wins.
Yeah, I mean A&M is not far away from being 2-2. You think about that Notre Dame game came down to the wire, and then the Auburn game was pretty close too. And you have a Mississippi State team that I really, really believe in. I was very impressed with what they did against Arizona State, getting a win there. And Arizona State, by the way, it's not like they're bad. They just had a big win over TCU, and it feels like they could be contenders to win the Big 12 again this year. And then Tennessee, believe in them a lot. They should have won that game against Georgia. It really felt like, and they took them down to overtime. Mississippi State, if they would have done a few things differently, could have won that game, and then they'd be sitting here 5-0. Um, that 14 and a half, I agree. I think that's way too much. I think it's going to be a really close game there. And dare I say, I think Mississippi State's going to win this thing outright. I just really believe in them. I don't know how much I believe in A&M right now. It feels like their ceiling has been 9-3, and I'm going to continue believing that until proven otherwise. And those losses have to come somewhere. Why not here against Mississippi State?
Yeah, we talked about the Mississippi State side, but let's not forget A&M is a really good football team, and they're kind of doing it in a very surprising way, not the way kind of everybody predicted them to be efficient. They're throwing the ball and they're creating a lot of big plays through the passing game. Marcel Reed is not a completion percentage guy, but the completions that he is getting are 20 to 30 yards down the field because the two receivers they got, Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver Jr., have been outstanding. Mario Craver Jr. is probably one of the best wide receivers in the entire country right now, and nobody is really talking about him. But if Marcel Reed can get these guys the ball, the opportunities are there for them to hit big plays down the field. I see this game being a little bit higher scoring than maybe the margins say. But I really do think Mississippi State is going to hang around just enough to cover. I do think A&M is going to win the football game, and they could win this thing by over a touchdown. I just don't think they get to that 2 touchdown range to where they cover that 14 and a half. I think A&M is a really good football team, and I think Mike Elko and the guys have a mentality where they know how important these types of games are. But I'm like you, man. This game could turn on its ear, and this could be one of the games that we're talking about at the end of the weekend, where it's like, okay, Mississippi State lost, but wow, they are like a really good football team because the stupid AP still doesn't have them ranked. They didn't have them ranked before the Tennessee game. The Set It Off networks had them ranked every single week ever since they beat Arizona State. All right, and they are still in the top 25 to this day. All right, so this is a ranked on ranked matchup. We're going with Mississippi State to cover, and then we're going Texas A&M to win though. So we're taking the best of both worlds. That way we please our A&M fans and our Mississippi State fans that are watching all in one shot. So.
Well, I'd say I disagree because I'm taking Mississippi State outright. Man, we've had a lot of disagreement with these first few games. I think.
If your predictions are right, Will, this weekend is going to be hellacious. All right?
Yeah.
Because you've already predicted what? I mean, you've already predicted 2.
I've said Vanderbilt,
3.
Florida State, and Mississippi State.
Yeah,
if
so you have 3 upsets
happen,
on the board right now of top 10 teams. Yeah.
I mean, we saw 4 top 10 teams go down last week, though, right? So things happen.
That is true. A lot of fraudulent top 10 teams, though.
Yeah.
Now, we are going to talk about a fraudulent team possibly on Fraud Alert. And speaking of top 10 teams, Will, you might as well continue the train going because our last game we're going to preview is the Texas Longhorns heading down to Gainesville. Man, this is I feel like this is a cool football game in general just because of the brands and the fact that these two teams never really played each other, right? But this game has lost its luster because of how terrible Florida is and how terrible DJ Lagway's been. But rumor is DJ Lagway said the offense has found themselves after the bye week. I'll believe that when I see it. But
they were lost and now they're found.
Either way, these two teams are defensive juggernauts, right? We know Florida's defense is really the only reason that they have been competitive in football games. That is the single-handedly reason why they are not sitting here probably, 0 and whatever. I mean, but DJ Lagway's got to play better. I think that when it comes down to Florida, that is what you have to start and end every conversation with. DJ Lagway has 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That is not good enough to win in this football league. And you are going against the number 2 defense in the country in Texas. They are extremely good. And apparently people in Texas feel like Arch Manning's kind of found something. So that's probably my biggest storyline that I want to watch this weekend is how Arch Manning plays against this solid Florida defense. Because it's kind of like we talked about for the Ohio State game. If he has a really good game, this could springboard his season into kind of what everybody thought it would be. And boy, would it be a great time for Texas to do that with the schedule they have coming up.
Man, this feels like previewing a preseason game almost, like where you don't really know what to expect because all we've seen out of Texas was week one when they go up to Ohio State and, play the Buckeyes close, but still end up losing that game. Arch Manning, not that impressive. And now we've had 3 weeks of Texas playing cupcakes. They've been getting full on cupcakes. And, I mean, sure, improving, putting up better numbers against those cupcake teams. Is it for real? Now you're playing an SEC game against Florida in the swamp. It's a tough environment, certainly. Florida, they've had a bye week, and Florida's going to have that mindset of, you got to get this thing figured out. You've got to figure it out. You're 1-3. Billy Napier, he knows his job is on the line if he doesn't pull out a big win like this. This is a beautiful opportunity. If DJ Lagway doesn't throw touchdown passes to Texas, that'll certainly help their cause because when you throw 5 interceptions to LSU in that one game, that was definitely not good for the Gators. And then it felt like they kind of ran to a buzzsaw with Miami. South Florida, South Florida's a good team, but Florida kind of cost themselves that game too. So I think I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go 4 for 4 on picking underdogs. I like Florida in this spot. I mean, they're coming off a bye week. They know it's do or die time. They got that home field advantage. I won't back down. I'll be blaring from the speakers. Love Tom Petty. Good stuff. I,
Yeah, I
I
won't
don't
bet.
know. I mean, I don't know what to think about Texas. Like I said, it's like picking a preseason game.
Yeah, for Texas, this is statement Saturday. This is where you go out here and you run it up. And I got a feeling Sark and the boys are ready. Coming off of a bye week, I think it's going to be bad. I don't trust Florida at all. I think this is going to be like, you remember the Miami Florida game last year where we really didn't know anything about any one of those teams either. And Miami went down
Mm-hmm.
to the swamp and did extraordinarily disrespectful things to Florida. And you're
Yep.
right; they're going to be singing "Won't Back Down," but it is going to be all from the Texas sideline. It is not going to be a good time on Saturday in Gainesville for a lot of Florida fans. And who knows? Billy Napier might even not even have a job on Monday, or Sunday, whenever they make that announcement. Because I think Texas is going to go up there. I think this is the springboard game for them. I think this is the game they've kind of circled that, hey, this is the one we want to be ready for, if that makes sense. This is the one we've been tuning things up for. Yeah, we lost to Ohio State, but this is where it really starts. This is conference play. This is where we really need to get our act together. I think Arch Manning is going to have a great game on Saturday. I think Texas is going to, I mean, I think they're going to be able to move the ball on Florida. I really do. I think the Florida defense is going to be put in such a terrible position by their offense that they're just going to be on the field the entire game, and eventually Texas is going to wear them down with those good running backs that they got. And I just feel like, man, I feel like this is a terrible spot for Florida. There's that whole Clemson thing with are they dead or are they in wounded animal mode? I think Florida's dead. I think Florida and Clemson are dead. I think both of those programs are going to be looking at new head coaches next year, and I think Billy Napier's job has about, if you're watching this, maybe like 48 to 72 hours left in it. So
You
I'm
know,
picking Texas to win and cover that 6.5.
you bring up Billy Napier, and he is like on paper thin ice right now. And I wonder, like, what do you think is the over/under number of points that Texas would beat Florida by for Florida to say on Sunday, "Get out of here"?
I don't even think it's a number. I think it's how they play. I honestly do. Like if they go out there and lose 24-3 or 24-6, like that'd be enough. But I think it's going to be significantly worse than that. I think they're going to win like 38-10 or something like that. It'll be like 3 to 4, 5 touchdowns, something like that. It's going to be bad. I don't think this game is going to be close at all. So I applaud you for having the confidence to put a prediction in for Florida. Maybe you got inside sources that I don't know. Maybe you've talked to Sunbelt Billy this week. Tell him I wish him the best. He's going to be a hell of an analyst next year, at whatever program he ends up at. But I
Uh,
don't
just
see.
just going off gut feelings, and like you said, it's one of those chaotic Saturdays, and I'm just buying into that. I think there's going to be all kinds of chaos. surely at least one of my predictions will hit, right?
Yeah, and that's all we can hope for. I mean, and so wrapping things up, hopefully Will's predictions come true because that would be amazing for college football. And like you said, neither one of our teams would have to fall victim to any upsets because we don't play. South Carolina and LSU don't play. Huge preview show next weekend. All right, talking about that game.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
not going to want to miss that. So if you're not already, guys, thank you again for watching. This has been our Week 6 preview. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Catch us on all the socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We're on all that crap. But the main thing that you guys need to do, and it's free, I'm pretty sure Will's still running the promotion. I'll have to check with them. But if you subscribe to the channel, you don't have to pay any money. All right, this is a one-time only thing. All right, so if you come in here and you see this and you're not subscribed, just know you missed out on your opportunity. So you need to go do it now. All right, subscribe, get us to 1,000 subscribers. That's what our goal is for this football season, to get us to 1,000 subscribers. I'm not begging, all right? I'm just asking nicely and a lot. So if you guys can make that happen for me and Will, that'd be awesome. So we appreciate you guys, though, for real. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys on Saturday. Maybe, Will? Maybe I don't know yet.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see what happens, because if it gets crazy, we're definitely going live. But if it's not, I don't know. We could not. But either way, we'll be here next week previewing all the big games. And like I said, LSU South Carolina, big rivalry on the show next weekend. So you're not going to want to miss that.